Hey, beautiful tribe. I wanted to share an experience that was profound for me um, this week that is worth noting. And so here we go. I met someone who has some training in Tantra and, has done some work around relationships and all that stuff, like in the same, similar field as me. And I was able to have an experience, with someone like that in a romantic way for a change, who's, kind of operating on a more similar level. And I found it just so fascinating how different it was than, say, the experience I had earlier in the week that was a very typical problematic experience with a male who's just operating from an unconscious place, I guess, and having to call it out and coach him and, go through the awkwardness of having someone just want what they want and me being like, whoa, wait a minute here. This is not what you proposed originally. You gave me this, idea to come give me something, and now you're making it into you wanting sexual stuff from me that I'm not interested in. So oh my gosh, crazy. Anyways, so these two experiences juxtaposed next to each other all in the same week. Very interesting. But at any rate, this I got to have a really good experience with this man in a romantic way, in a very clean way, where because he's trained in Tantra, he knew how to just be in the moment and very present and not pushing anything, not going too fast like the previous guy did. Went way too fast. Was just sort of like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? Whereas this one, I noticed I was immediately at ease. I was able to relax into the situation instead of being on guard, because it made me realize how much as women we're just on guard whenever we go into a sexual situation, because we're constantly, or at least the circles I'm in, there's a lot of talk around having to redirect men and slow them down and making sure that they're doing it in a way that feels good to us and all that. It's just like a shit show sometimes. Anyway, with him, it was just nice to, and it had a different flavor to it. It wasn't like this fiery, passionate thing. It was kind of more this nurturing, loving, unconditional love kind of vibe. And I was appreciating it because I was able to open, and notice my body rising up and responding to what was happening in the moment in a very authentic way. Because normally it seems like I'm used to experiencing guys moving too fast and I'm like having to be on guard, and then I'm not able to drop into my body and just respond in a real time, and it was really nice to be able to do that. Like, notice my body moving just naturally and responding to what was happening, because everything was slowed down and we were just so present that instead of like everything being its super speed warp, that it was really enjoyable to just slow everything down and enjoy every second. Yeah, that's I'm so grateful to him that he could be that, and that I could experience that with him. And so like the kissing was very different, where our mouths were together and not always moving, or, not tongues thrashing constantly, but just, just having our mouths together and just like being still even sometimes, but very powerful. And I was also noticing that that it, for me, and I'm imagining this is common, women have to really focus in order to orgasm. It's like there's a certain focus that has to happen to get there. And a lot of times we're feeling like the men want us to get there faster than we can normally get there, like it takes us longer because we're not probably feeling safe and we've been rushed and, whatever. And so, in order to pull that off, it takes a lot of focus to like try to get there, normally. And I realized that it requires my focus and it also requires his focus for that orgasm to show up. So what became clear to me was that I can't be distracted by trying to pleasure him while he's pleasuring me, because then I can't focus and get there. So I noticed that I stopped doing that and slowed down and was doing less, because we were sort of like reached this point where we were pleasuring each other with our hands. And yet I couldn't get there with orgasm if I was distracted with, pleasuring him. So that was an aha moment that came clear. And then I also noticed that he needs to be fully focused on that orgasm happening for me too, because if he's distracted or if he's getting tired or he's kind of not present, then I can't get there, because it shows up in how he's touching me, and it's like not as conscious and not as present. And so the energy's not there to support the orgasm. So really fascinating, isn't it? Really good to know in, a deeper way. I mean, I've known that. It's just that it really, really showed itself clearly in this experience. And what else do I want to share around that? Oh, yes, another thing. I noticed that because he was, respectful and honoring and, being kind of like that divine masculine Tantra man, it allowed me to just open and relax and drop in. And that's where the real juice is. And it was so much more authentic, and I was able to just be me instead of, the other experience that I typically find with men, where I really have just kind of opted not to even go there anymore, because I'm just tired of having to coach them. And it doesn't end up being a good experience. So there's a lot of communication that goes into setting each other up for success. And it just reminds me more and more how much I need to be really clear about what's okay and what's not okay. At any rate, I also kind of just noticed that, I was like, my natural desire to go further was able to arise because he was really just holding space and going slow and letting me lead with what I wanted to do next and what I was ready for, instead of pushing me into something that I'm not ready for, and then it doesn't feel good to me. So this was beautiful because I got to see my body start to undulate and move and like lead, and I noticed just that desire to go further was there because he was holding space and safety for that to happen. And then it was so nice for me to experience how I wanted to, and I had a desire to actually go into union, even though we didn't. But it was just nice to feel like, oh, like this natural arising of, oh my gosh, that would feel nice to go into union with this kind of a vibe where it's very present and honoring. Like it was a natural desire instead of me just feeling like, oh, you're wanting to go there? Well, I just met you. And like, why do you think that you've earned the right to be there already, and kind of just being shocked. The other thing I learned that was really key for me is I noticed that I am not so comfortable hosting a man in my home. And I've noticed that that tends to be the way it happens or at least it did. That's how it has been happening in the recent past, is that they're coming to my place. And of course I have my own place, and it's a nice place. It's magical. It's comfortable. And it seems like that's how it's happened. But then I got really clear that I actually really don't enjoy hosting. I find myself, and this is just a really good aha moment that other women might not have thought about, or, and so it's good to bring awareness to this for everybody, that I realize that when I'm hosting someone, it seems like even just bringing, say, the date to my home, things end up happening that maybe too quickly that I really didn't intend, or that wasn't my intention, but he's sort of bringing it into a sexual thing faster than I would have. And there's something to be said for going on a public date and being out in public where you're not having to deal with someone coming onto you too strongly physically, because when you're in a private space, he can do that without anybody seeing it and like get away with it if you're letting him. So oh dear. At any rate, I did kind of notice that I didn't enjoy hosting, and I've noticed this lately just in people coming over, even friends, where it's like sometimes if I feel like they want to be catered to, and I don't always feel like catering to people. I want them to be sovereign and take care of themselves, and if they need water, they can go get water. I don't need to be it felt a little bit heavy, because it felt like there was role reversal a little bit, where I'm providing everything. I'm providing the nice home. I'm providing the AC and, all my stuff, and my products are here, and, and then we needed to eat. And so it's like, then we're using my food, and it's like, I hit a wall. It's at some point in the experience where I was just tired of being the one providing everything. And I did mention it because he asked, and I said, I am feeling a little uncomfortable. This is, I'm sensitive to this role reversal thing, where it feels like honestly, it feels like I'm doing way too much and it's not balanced. Because normally the guy provides, he's the one taking you out to eat or whatever, or is at least providing something, like, hey, if I'm going to open my home and we're going to spend time here and use my stuff, then you need to provide the meal at least. And I just noticed I kept feeling like I was in a position of providing this, that, and the other. And it was like, this is high maintenance, So I kind of learned that, like, oh, maybe I need to just not offer to have someone come over to my home where I'm put in that position. And especially if they're wanting to be catered to, it's like, oh, I don't really want to be the mother to somebody in doing that. And, if I like to and I offer and I choose to, that's one thing. But if I'm starting to feel like, I don't want to be, you're not a child, I'm not your mother, like, take care of yourself. And the other thing that I noticed is I also, because it's so funny, right? Like, you're all relaxed and snuggling, and, the natural thing is to want to just fall asleep together. But this is the con side of that, which is he was on a completely different rhythm than I am. I'm early to bed, early to rise. I had plans the next day. And he is not in that rhythm, and he slept several hours past when I got up, and he was very slow moving and wanted to be catered to, and it was just like, oh my God, I just wanted him out, And so it made me realize, maybe the overnight thing's not such a good thing. And of course, all this can be eradicated through good communication. I just, it was just a spontaneous thing where we ran into each other and hung out and did a sunset walk, and one thing led to the next. And so it was not something I had planned for. And so anyway, I guess it's a good awareness to make it clear, like, hey, I get up early and these are my plans. And if you fit into that, great. Otherwise, I'm going to be leaving the house. So you need to be ready to go by this time, because otherwise I found like the whole thing literally hijacked my day. Half my day felt wasted on waiting for him to get it together enough to get out. And it's like, he was just so, like, he just wasn't getting a hint. And it felt a little bit passive aggressive, honestly. It was just strange. And I just wanted out at that point. It's like, get me out of here. I'm done. And so anyway, I decided that, that my awareness and my takeaway from this experience, even though it had good parts to it, we were not resonant in other ways. And I may not want to host and invite anyone to my home in particular if I don't want to deal with that. Or I can communicate what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do before we even enter my home. Then the second thing is the overnight thing is same thing, communicating how that works for me and how that wouldn't work for me, and making it clear how that's going to go, because otherwise I did not enjoy that morning experience at all. And it was just too much. And I think, because it was our first time together too, even though we met each other beforehand and talked and all that, it was our first time actually being, one-on-one sharing time. And, it's maybe not such a good idea to do an overnight on that first connection time. It's kind of a long time, a lot of hours. And things can go awry at any point along there because you haven't calibrated your different ways of doing life, and when you get up in the morning and how you do breakfast and what, on and on. So may you benefit from these lessons of my life as I share them. Oh my.